Now, the vast majority, approximately 95% of the people of all countries, go around and around without aim or purpose. They drift with the circumstances of life, good or bad.
A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind.
Whereas the successful individuals create their own circumstances and ride them to victory.
When you're on purpose, you're living on purpose, you will never quit if you have a real purpose.
A burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. But what I have done has been recorded, it's been tested, it's being taken to a free world, and it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born.
And it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born. We're some of those people that we're spreading this to the world. As your awareness grows, the doubt is gone so that you can manifest whatever it is your heart desires. Isn't that beautiful?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Napoleon Hill. How do I say this? The Napoleon Hill Military Division Think and Grow Rich book study that is being hosted by Frank Menard. I am Erica Kelly, who is for the Napoleon Hill, the military division leader, and it's an honor really to be in the room with Frank and also with Joel. As people come in the room later, then we'll let them in. But Frank, I think that we can start rolling.
Well, you know, we always try to respect the time of everybody involved, and it is just a little bit after 7 o'clock, so we'll kick this off. First and foremost, as you can see my background, I am beautiful southwestern Florida, and Erica is in Southern California. Joel, where the heck are you?
Birmingham, Alabama.
All right, you're not too far away. How did you fare in the storm, my friend? You all right?
It didn't hit us at all.
Oh, aren't you a lucky guy? So this week we are following through with our study on faith, and I'm getting ready to share my slides, which is where we left off from last week. And we will actually from the previous week. And here we go. So we're talking about faith and that why it's crucial to feed your subconscious positive thoughts backed by the firm belief that you will receive what you are asking for. Your subconscious will begin to direct your movements toward that end, which will make it easier to achieve your desires, as the universe will also be harmonizing with your thoughts and bringing opportunities your way. And I'd like to share at this point that, you know, faith, when we talk about faith, I just did a presentation this afternoon to a group of real estate agents, and we talked a little bit about faith. And I said, so when I say faith, what does that mean to you? And everyone said religion. And while I believe that for many of us, faith is religion, but the faith that we're talking about here is faith in ourselves, faith in our abilities to do what it is that we want to do. That can be combined with your religious faith, whatever that might be, but it's not necessarily all about the religion. It's self-confidence. It's faith in being able to achieve the things that you are destined to achieve because they are your burning desires. So I just want to make that clear before we move on. However, our environments will inevitably contain negative influences. So along with working to create a favorable field of magnetic attraction through the positive emotions of love, faith, and sex, we must actively reject negative energy. All influences or vibrations should be filtered as they enter our consciousness, so that our subconscious mind does not internalize destructive thoughts. So I just want to stop there for a minute. When we talk about the information that comes to us, it comes to us in a lot of different ways. It could be the media, it could be our own personal self-talk. It could be reading a book. What are you reading? What's the input that you're putting into your mind? And we have to be very careful because there's two minds. There's the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind cannot make decisions. It simply does what we feed it to do. So it's our responsibility to be aware of what we're allowing in to our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. So what does that mean? When you catch yourself doing some negative self-talk, so that's a lack of faith in your own abilities. And you have to catch that. And you have to redirect it and say, no, that's not what I meant to say. I had somebody last week say to me, I procrastinate all the time. And my feedback to her was, no, you need to rephrase that. I never procrastinate. I always focus on those things that are the most priority in my life. So you can change the statement. It's an affirmation. You can change that if you catch it. So being aware is probably one of the most important things. Anybody have any comments about that?
I would like to add, Frank, that the subconscious, like you said, cannot reject, cannot neglect something, put it to the side. It just accepts it. And as we try to change our paradigms, as we try to change old bad habits, and we're trying to push a new idea into the subconscious, it's not that the subconscious just accepts. There's programming already in the subconscious. And that's what I want to add to what you just said. There's already programming. And when we are trying to change something that is going to benefit us, that subconscious is going to say, I already have a file on that. And it pushes the new thing because it's too new, too tender. It's like, no. So we continue to go back to what's familiar. We continue to go back to the old conditioning, the old programming. That's why sometimes, and I'm sure that all of us, all of you have experienced it, because I know I have, of how many times have we said, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to say that anymore. I don't want to act like that anymore. And something happens. What happens? Our subconscious picks up the one file that it knows it works, right?
This is what I'm supposed to do.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
you follow the algorithm, and then later you go, gosh, I did it again. So for us, all of us that either are watching the recording or are in the room, the key is to understand the repetition. The repetition of, it didn't work, awesome. Try again, try again, try again, try again, until whatever you want to put in your subconscious, the subconscious accepts it.
You know, Erica, thank you for clarifying that. And I want to share, this past week, I learned something that was a little bit of a twist that fits in what we're talking about. So we talk about self-talk, affirmations. So we're feeding stuff into our subconscious mind, trying to change the algorithms, as you put it, what's already in there, the files that are already in there. And so we think about affirmations and we say, you know, I live an abundant life. I have plenty of money. Whatever it is that we're saying, the subconscious mind says, no, wait a minute. No, you
No,
don't.
you don't.
No, you don't.
You're lying.
So a really unique twist. I'd never heard this before. Someone shared it on a mentorship call the other day. And it says, instead of doing an affirmation, do an ask affirmation. So instead of saying, I am living an abundant life, change it to, how am I living an abundant life? When you do that, see, the subconscious mind has to go after what it is that you're asking for. So how am I living an abundant life? How am I healthy? How am I? So when you ask the questions in that way, it causes your subconscious mind to wait a minute, that's a new file. I don't know the answer to that yet, so I'm going to go find the answer. And I think, to be clear, that's what the subconscious mind does.
And that's the
Yeah.
beauty of coaching.
Yeah, it really is. And you know what? Erica and I are both coaches, and I still learn stuff every single day from other coaches. And that was something I had never heard I've been coaching for over 8 years. I have never heard anyone put it that way. And it made so much sense to me.
Yes.
So
And Frank,
sometimes,
I apologize. Go ahead,
go
Frank.
ahead. No, go ahead, Erica.
No, I was going to say that the piece of coaching that is critical for people to understand is that as we coach, what we want is to bring the subconscious, all those old files that we don't even know exist, to the conscious.
Yeah.
So when we ask that question that Frank just presented of how am I successful? How am I happy? How am I healthy? When we ask that, the subconscious only understands one thing: find the file, find the program to answer that. And that is what brings, because it's like, oh, I don't have the answer. I don't have the file. And that is what makes it bring it up to the conscious so we can look at it and then give the subconscious an answer.
I'm listening to you, Erica, and I'm saying it's almost like the subconscious is lazy. If there's already a file, I'm just going to pick up that old file and I'm just going to throw it out there, and that's where we're going.
You know, Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is a quantum physics doctor, medical doctor, he's a genius. And the way that he describes the way that he describes the subconscious is an empty room with a desk and, you know, a recorder with cassette tape. So the only thing that it can do, you can talk to it and you can talk to it. He's like, because the only way that it's going to give you something is if you trigger the play button, because it can only give you what it already has.
Yeah. And if it can't answer, it has to search.
Correct.
And
then it pushes it to the conscious.
That's the only time it goes to work, is
Yes,
if it can't answer the question, if there's not already a recording.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And I'm so glad that I learned that this week so I could share it tonight, because it fits right into what we're talking about. The subconscious mind is what really guides us to be successful. And it's the laziest piece in the machinery.
And it's what stops us from being successful as well. We just need to know that. So Joe, is this making sense to you?
It definitely is. It's definitely a eye opener, especially the way y'all explained it. I was able to understand it very, very well.
Yes.
It's almost like weird, right? You don't even think that's the way it works, but it does work that way. And we are doing what we're doing so that we can learn how to be aware and control and make things work the way we want it to work for our benefit. So the self-talk, reprogramming ourselves, understanding that we have negative paradigms that have already been fed to us, not necessarily by us, but by our environment, the media, our family, whatever. Stuff just kind of gets plugged in, and it's not necessarily real. It's just somebody else's perception.
Well, Frank and Joel, I mean, maybe you'll understand a little bit of this. Years ago, even before I retired from the Air Force, I was diagnosed with complex PTSD. And I think I shared that in this room before. But the way that it works for me, at least PTS, is because enough things happened to me and happened around me. I witnessed enough things that my brain was conditioned. So now the way that PTS shows up in my life is if I smell something. If I smell something, my brain goes to where it doesn't need to go, because it goes back to the file, right? If you smell this, what happens? This happened. Whoa, here's the file. This is what you need to do. If driving is one of my biggest triggers. I was part of a lot of convoys and a lot of things in different places. So driving for me, depending on how the road feels, the light of the day, if I'm not very intentional on something, my brain will go where it doesn't need to go. And that is the file. If this is happening, this is the file. That means you're in danger. That means you need to do this, that, and it just escalates to me, possibly, if I'm not careful, losing control. That's why it's so good to reprogram, so good to recondition, reframe, and be in conversations like this. Hopefully I didn't share too much. Overshare.
Joel, any comments, Joel?
I was just listening, so I just want to thank you for sharing.
I appreciate that. I experienced something this morning, which was interesting because our subconscious mind is just programmed to do whatever it's supposed to do, and doesn't compare to a PTS situation. But this morning I was supposed to go for a 5-mile run, and we've been having some pretty heavy rains here in Southwest Florida. So I chose to take my run where I knew the areas very well, and then the roads weren't going to be flooded, the sidewalks weren't going to be flooded. And so I was going to do a straight 2.5 miles out, 2.5 miles back. And I hit the turnaround point, started coming back. And then I'm listening to, I think I was listening to Succeed with a Positive Mental Attitude by W. Clement Stone and Napoleon Hill. And anyway, I'm just in my mode. I'm doing my run. And all of a sudden I get my Nike app talks into my ear and it says that I'm at 4.5 miles and I'm supposed to be at 5. How does that happen? I went straight out and I came straight back, the same route that I took. No, I didn't. There was one turn that I didn't take because I don't usually take that turn. And in order to do the complete route, I would have had to take that dead end street and do a turnaround and come back. And so my subconscious mind was in control. I wasn't paying attention. I was just in the mode. I mean, we've all done it. You leave home, you're going to work, you arrive at the office, you have no idea how you got there. That's the danger of the subconscious mind, because it's going to pull that file and it's going to run you through your routines, because that's what it does. And so it doesn't compare, Erica, with what you were just sharing, but it's the same thing. As my wife would say, it's the same thing, only different.
But it is the same thing. It's something else takes control.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, right, when all the emotions are where they need to be, you're like, God, I hate when that happens.
I'm a half a mile short today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. And it's really interesting when you dig into that and how it all works. It makes sense. I didn't like it this morning, I'll tell you that much. All right, so let's see. We're going to go here. Let's go back one. All influence of vibration should be filtered as they enter our consciousness so that our subconscious mind does not internalize destructive thought. And we want to think about things like faith, love, and sex. The first two are physical emotions experienced purely in the mind, whereas the latter, sex, is entirely biological. When we focus on an idea, plan, or purpose in a state of mind comprised of faith, love, and sexual desire, we harness the cosmic force that Hill refers to as infinite intelligence, a concept that derives from Ralph Waldo Emerson's well-known essay, Self-Reliance. In it, Emerson writes, "In that deep force, the last fact behind which analysis cannot go, all things find their common origin. We first share the life by which things exist, and afterwards see them as appearances in nature, and forget that we have shared their cause. Here is the fountain of action and of thought. Here are the lungs of that inspiration which giveth man wisdom, and which cannot be denied without impiety and atheism. We lie in the lap of immense intelligence, which makes us receivers of its truth and organs of its activity. This immense intelligence could also be called nature, the universe, God, or transcendental consciousness. It is the cosmic energy that finds expression in humans and connects us with the greatest source of goodness and wisdom in the universe. Applying the positive emotions to a thought causes it to become more firmly entrenched in our mind, while also energizing it to seek an outlet in physical form, finding a way to get out there. In the realization of that idea, plan, or purpose, this process can be represented by the following diagram. Thought plus positive emotion, faith, love, sex, plus an action plan equals the physical manifestation of the thought. It's important to note that action is required, both in the terms of the active cultivation of productive thoughts and the positive emotions, as well as in terms of creating and following through on a direct plan of action. Infinite intelligence alone will not manifest wishes. You know, I did a presentation today to a real estate brokerage and the agents that work for that brokerage, and we were talking about the 17 keys to success, which I believe was published from the foundation right around 1996. It was a compilation of all the thoughts that were derived from Napoleon Hill's works at the foundation. And we went through 17 principles, 17 keys. And I said, okay, so what's the takeaway from this? And one of the individuals said, well, look, we're going to put together, we have to find out what the goal is. And I said, you absolutely got to have the goal. And he said, then I got to put together the plan and everything will come into play. And I said, no, it won't. Because oftentimes we have the idea, we have the thought, we have the goal, we set that goal, we set the deadline for the goal, we follow those rules, then we sit down, we write out a great action plan. I've seen some beautiful action plans, and those same individuals do not achieve their goals. Why don't they achieve their goals? They're missing the last step. They either don't take action at all, or they take action, and then when the first obstacle, the first speed bump that comes into play, they back off. I can't do this. That's a lack of faith. So when we're talking about faith, as we're talking about in this chapter, we're talking about you have to have faith and confidence in yourself that you can achieve what it is that you conceived. You put together a plan. You have to believe that you can achieve it. And when you have those two pieces, you will achieve it. But you have to go deeper. And it's something that I have not read in Napoleon's writings, but I have found it in Napoleon Hill Institute. It's called an exercise called 7 Levels Deep. And when you identify something that you want to achieve, I challenge my coaching clients to ask yourself, okay, why do you want that? And when they respond with their answer, I ask again, why is that important? And a third time, why is that response important? And we go 7 levels deep with the same question for each response. Why? When I put myself through this exercise, what I found was at about number 5, definitely I was starting to feel some emotional response. Number 6, was even more. In fact, I'm going to be honest. I stopped at 5 because I was getting emotional. I was doing a video and I had to stop because I didn't want to express that emotion. I just worked through this process with a client that I'm working with. And the assignment from our previous session was she wanted to either do X or Y. I said, okay, which one do you think is most important? She said X. I said, okay, fine. I want you to go home, do the 7 levels deep exercise, and tell me why X is important. We met this past week. Actually, we just met 2 days ago. And she said, I chose Y. I was shocked. I didn't understand that. She surprised me completely. Why was her passion? Why went deep all the way back to when she was a youngster in school? She loved art and design. And we were competing with going to law school. She chose to pursue the art and design, but she attended an open house at a local college. She loved the instructor. She loved the program. Unfortunately, it was 2.5 hours away. It was a 2.5 hour drive from where she lives. So that's a 5 hour round trip. And her response is, I can't do it. I listened to her reasons why she couldn't do it. Then I challenged her and I said, okay, let me ask you a question. We know all the reasons you can't do it. But my question is, how could you do it? And here's the cool thing. In less than 20 minutes, we found 3 different options of how she could do it. And just as we were starting the call tonight, I saw her text message come in to my request of, okay, what'd you come up with? How are we doing this? So I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but here's what I know. We tend to focus on the reason we can't do something because we don't have the faith in our abilities to be creative, to be able to do the things that we want to do. You got to follow your passion. So when you find yourself saying, I can't because of, flip it and say, okay, I got that, but how could I do it? And uncover the options that are there. Any comments?
In the Air Force, we used to have a saying that says, how do we get to yes? So all kinds of obstacles, right, put on the table, and then someone, it was our job that someone in that room, when we were brainstorming something, someone needed to say, okay, awesome, how do we get to yes? And as you were speaking, Frank, it reminded me of the 3 things, the 3 obstacles that at least Cleona O'Hara, the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Institute, brought up when she was doing a presentation about faith, and how you were saying why the perfect action plan is not so perfect. Well, that action, that physical step forward, the way that at least it was described by Cleona is 3 things. Indecision takes over, doubt takes over, and the combination of those 2 create a paralyzing fear. And then that perfect, beautiful action plan stays on paper.
Yeah.
So it's overcoming those 3 things that will allow us to use our faith as strong as we can. Now, it's interesting that in what you just read to us a few minutes ago, Napoleon Hill added, how can faith be the strongest it can be? And it's a combination of putting or adding love and sex to it. And when you were reading that, Frank, little flashes of history, not specific people, but just specific events in history of how much someone that, and we can use the religion definition if we want to, but faith just by itself, how much has faith moved individuals, moved countries, created conflict, created peace, whatever you want to call it. But faith, Gandhi is a perfect example, right? Or it's just this incredible force. And how many people have not died for love, have not put their credibility to respect or to protect love. And when we feel those little butterflies and we're falling in love and we somehow we're tired, but oh, here comes the person that we like, and now we have energy, and we gotta, how much energy that sexual drive gives us to almost do the impossible, right? So it's interesting how powerful what you are sharing with us today is, Frank. So thank you.
And and we're going to deep further into that later in the book, when we talk a lot more about that sex energy, because when we say sex, it immediately turns, biological. This is what we're supposed to do. This is what we do. But that energy, if I think back, and I actually was thinking about this today when I was driving back from my appointments, that what did I do to win over the woman I've been married to for 46 years? What would I have overcome? I mean, I remember driving from New Hampshire to North Carolina. She was stationed at Cherry Point, North Carolina. And I remember my muffler fell out of my car. And I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I get the muffler torn off, and I got to go in and wash my hands, and I leave my watch in the gas station by mistake, and it was a very special watch to me. I drove an hour down the road, had to drive it all the way an hour back, and fortunately, there was my watch. Some guy was putting it in his pocket, but nothing was going to stop me from going to be with her, right? So when we talk about that energy, we have to remember that at some point we can redirect that energy and use that powerful force to achieve whatever it is that we want.
Yeah. And I think that's what Napoleon Hill is saying. It's, can we, and we can. So the answer is, can we? Yes, we can. Combine faith, love, and sex, and move those three things, and pinpoint all that energy to what we desire.
Yeah. Joel, is any of that connecting with you?
Yes, I'm starting to understand that. One of the reasons why I wanted to further research more the book, and I like what y'all are saying about that.
I remember, Joel, I think you have two children.
Three daughters.
Three daughters. God bless you. And I mean, that love, right? That faith, and the things that you would do for that family, right? It's the same thing. It's a powerful force. It's what drives most of us to achieve whatever it is we want to achieve. And so I think there's a lot to, people get really freaked out when they hear words like faith and sex, and they don't know how to respond to that. But at the end of the day, we have to understand and accept the power that those emotions give us. If we just learned how, as Erica shared, how to direct them, how to take control and direct them. And if we do that, we can have whatever it is we want.
And the book also talks about, or not the book, Napoleon Hill also talks about, addresses mostly man and how they use that sexual energy biologically, right? Just physically. And then later in life, right, they mature enough, they go, oh my gosh, I wasted so much time. I wasted so much energy. I could have just, right, put all that energy into one thing, which is combine it with love, combine it with faith, and pinpoint it to what you want. But Joel, Frank, I have let Olivia Serna into the room. She is brand new to Napoleon Hill. She was part of a study with Dr. Joel Vitale, the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Institute. And she is reading Think and Grow Rich, or listening to it. I think she bought the book as well. So I invited her to be part of this book study. So as she reads it, she can be with us, you know, her brothers and sisters, and then she can understand the book better. So
Olivia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled. It's amazing to be part of this group. I believe what I'm studying right now. This is not the first time that I'm going through Napoleon Hill's book, but this time I want to take it seriously and make that change. And I think the group that you belong to, that team that you embrace as part of your partners in this journey, I think is important. So I'm very happy to be here, and I appreciate. Thank you, Erica, for letting me be part of this group. Thank you.
Welcome to
you're
the
very
room, Olivia.
you're very welcome and welcome. And just so you know, you're not alone. I the first time I read Think and Grow Rich was about 1977, and there's a big difference between reading a book and then being committed to implementing the lessons that are in the book. So I love to hear the fact that you want to approach this from a much more serious aspect and actually study. And you know what? The book is amazing. And the lessons that we talk about are amazing and powerful. And whenever I walk away from our studies each week, I ask, okay, so how am I going to implement what we talked about today? And actually, I do a book study on Wednesday nights and Thursday nights. Wednesday nights is for regular people in my community, and Thursday nights are for veterans and people involved with NHI. And what I know is that it's powerful when we start to talk about these things and we see these little subgroups start to break out. I actually met somebody yesterday who's in another group that's studying Think and Grow Rich with a person who's in my other group, and they created their own little group. And so it's kind of like a spider web. And it's actually doing, I think, what the mission of NHI is, which is to impact the lives. I'm going with the original of 8 billion people, because that's the population of the universe today, or of the world as we know it. And so it's really cool to dive in deep, but it's really important to see how can you implement what you learned. So when you walk away tonight, think about that. What did we talk about, and how can we implement it? And Olivia, you walked in right in the right spot. We're talking about love, sex, and faith. It's cool. So, all right, so I'm going to go back to the slides and we'll pick up where we left off. It's important to note that action is required, both in terms of the active cultivation of productive thought and positive emotions, as well as in terms of creating and following through on a direct plan of action. Infinite intelligence alone will not manifest your wishes. So just thinking about things isn't going to make it happen. It will, however, join forces with your thoughts, magnetized by the positive emotions, and send more of what you're putting out into the universe back to you, while also strengthening your resolve to carry out your purpose. I'm going to read that again. It will, however, join forces with your thoughts, magnetized by the positive emotions, and send more of what you are putting out into the universe and bringing it back to you, while also strengthening your resolve to carry out your purpose. What you put out is what you're going to get. So I think it's really important to acknowledge and recognize what's the energy you're putting out there. Are you enthusiastic? Are you trying to serve others? Are you doing everything you can to help those in need? Not part of Zig Ziglar, not part of Napoleon Hill, but Zig Ziglar once said, everything, you can have everything you want if you help other people get what they want. So focusing on serving others. And I think that message comes through in the writings of Napoleon Hill. It's about serving. It's not about getting. And a lot of people get that confused, especially with the title, Think and Grow Rich. Think about it. Think and Grow Rich. I want to remind everybody that this book was published shortly after, as we're coming out of the Great Depression. So everybody was focusing on, how do I get back to recovery mode? How do I get my life back? And so the title made sense back then. But as you read Think and Grow Rich, and if you go further and read some of the other publications that Napoleon is responsible for, he really is talking about serving our communities, serving our world, helping the people around us to achieve a valuable life, a life of riches. And if you do that, you can have everything that you want because you're serving others. It bears repeating that the universe does not discriminate between positive or negative impulses of thought. If your emotions are magnetizing destructive thoughts, it will aid in your unconscious efforts to attract misfortune. I need to stop there and we need to talk about that. Subconscious mind could care less about negative or positive. So, how's your attitude? When you start your day, how are you thinking? Is it positive or negative? You wake up in a bad mood? I've certainly done that. I would think that everybody else in the room has probably awoke in the morning not feeling the greatest. So what do you do with that attitude? You know, Erica, you mentioned our CEO earlier, Cleona O'Hara. She said to me one day in I guess now they call it Miracle Mornings, but it used to be the self-discipline camp. Being a Marine, I like the self-discipline camp better. But she said to me one time, she says, Frank, you're competent, confident, and consistent. And for some reason, that stuck with me. And this was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. And occasionally I'll wake up not feeling the most positive in the world. But before my feet hit the ground, I say, I'm confident, I'm competent, and I'm consistent. And I hit the ground running. So I'm going to suggest everyone in the room pick 3 words. 3 words that describe who you are, who you want to be, how you want to approach the world. And say those 3 words before your feet hit the ground, or as they hit the ground, stand up saying it. I'm confident, I'm competent, and I'm consistent. Whatever your 3 words are. Erica, any comments on that?
Yeah, I would like to add that sometimes when we are in rooms like this, and yeah, we're sharing a lecture, we just want, you know, whoever's watching the recording to understand that we're not blind to the fact that it's hard. We're not blind to the fact that it's hard to catch ourselves. And when I say catching ourselves, is that negative voice that all of us have, and some of us can control or quiet enough. But that negative thought of, let's say you tripping, and you saying to yourself, you're so dumb. Can't believe you did that, Joel. Joel saying it to himself, right? So when we are talking about having that positive energy enter your subconscious, please understand that we know that it's practice, that we know that it takes patience, that we know that it takes that consistency that Frank is talking about. Is just doing it over and over until whatever you're trying to change becomes a habit. Because when you are in a dark place, when you are in a really tough situation, and you hear Frank say, be generous, give, think positive thoughts, you're like, seriously, Frank? Right? Because of your state of mind. So I think that's what you're asking, Frank, of all of us, is what are our 3 words that can not snap us out of where we are, but remind us of where we
Refocus.
need to be.
It
Mhm.
refocuses, right?
Yeah.
And to be fair, we all drift, regardless of who we are, where we've been. I know that if I look at like I'm in complete control, I can put my hand over here and say, yeah, not really, not today, right? Because the image that we put out there sometimes is simply a front. I gave a presentation last week. I belong to Toastmasters, and I gave a presentation, and it wasn't a scheduled presentation. So a couple of our speakers didn't show up, so we had to have some fill-ins, and I volunteered to fill in. So we're talking about getting up and speaking for 6 to 8 minutes off the cuff. Wasn't prepared, just doing it. And fortunately, I just went to my 50th high school reunion, and I got to give that presentation. And so my image is as a stoic Marine. I'm a Marine, period. And I have a very good friend in this Toastmasters group, and she happened to be my evaluator of my presentation. And as I was sharing my story, my experience from that weekend, I exposed some emotions. And my very good friend, in her evaluation, said, Frank, it's so good to see the real you, the authentic you, not the Marine you. So I'm not beyond understanding that we all have fronts. We all put out an image, but we're all living a real life.
And I would argue back, Frank, that stoic, Marine is you. It's just that we have different facets of and different layers of exposing our emotions at different places. Because if I was in combat and I'm going to then be lovey and understanding and I'm going to help you and I'm going to get killed. So there are different environments where you need to specifically act and be that persona that you said
That's right.
in order for you to be successful in that environment. So if you think of yourself as a victim, you're going to be always a victim. If you start reprogramming yourself and talking about maybe one time you were victimized, maybe one time or multiple times you went through conflict or hard times. But if you stay in those hard times, if you stay in that situation and don't evolve, so you can look at it and go, awesome. And still like you did with your Toastmasters, right?
Yeah.
I think that you showed emotion because you saw all these people and you're like, man, this is amazing, right? Because you saw your awareness, you saw your growth, you saw your change.
Yeah. We were in a safe zone. We were people that we trusted. And and why is that important in this room? And I'm just going to say it. This room is different than other rooms sometimes that we're working with in NHI, because this room is the Veterans Division. We deal with some different things, some stuff. And one of the reasons I'm here for sure is because I want to be able to have impact and help people who are going through some of that stuff and to let them know that it's okay. From what Erica just said, I don't know why I have the persona I have, but there's a reason why I have that. And there's also a reason that that emotional side comes out on occasion. Right? And so why is that? Is it okay? Is that showing weakness? Actually, it initially I probably would have said it shows weakness. But as I confronted in my room last night, where that person was there, my friend was there, I gave her credit for calling me out.
Mhm.
I gave her credit for giving me the okay to be that frank. And I think it's something that we should all think about. It's okay. We've all gone through stuff, whether it be as a veteran or some crisis in your civilian community. We've all gone through stuff. We all have baggage, and I think it's important to recognize that. But that doesn't have to define you. So it's okay to open up when you feel safe and comfortable to do that. I don't know. I don't know how we got down that road, but I think
Well,
it's important for us to talk about it.
and this is something else that we need to understand about life, right? Anything that we're going through right now is temporary.
Mm.
Good, bad, or ugly is temporary. Things will change. So this is the deal. The deal is either we just went through something, we are going through something right now, or we will go through something in the future. That's it. I mean, I don't want to simplify life, but either we just went through something, we are going through something right now, or we will go through something. And I don't know why we're surprised that we live in that cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's life. It's called life. And you know what Napoleon says, that with every adversity, we uncover an equal or greater benefit. So
The universe is balanced, right?
whatever experience we go through, we need to stop, accept the experience. It is what it is. It's already happened. And then look for, what can I learn from this? What can I love this. Somebody said to me one time, okay, so what did I do wrong? No. Ask yourself, what could I do different? What could I do different in this circumstance? Right? So stuff is going to happen, and sometimes we're responsible for the stuff. Sometimes someone else is responsible for the stuff. We have absolutely no control for the stuff. But it was the stuff that happened. So just take a breath, make sure the stuff is done, and then look at it and analyze it. And Napoleon would want us to ask, what could we do different? Where's the benefit? What did I gain from this experience? How can I use this experience to become a better person, to help someone else become better, going through a similar experience? And I think that's the beauty of the writings in Think and Grow Rich, is it makes you think about not just yourself, but what can we learn from this experience, and how can we help others?
Yeah, and in this chapter of faith, I think it's important for all of us to, faith allows us to possibly look at the situation that we're going through from the other side. The other side of the conflict, the other side of indecision, the other side of doubt, the other side of fear. And like Frank just said, look at it and go, what did I learn? You know, why was that obstacle placed right in front of me? What was it that I could have done better? What stopped me? I knew what to do, but what program in my subconscious stopped me from taking the action that I needed to move forward? Right?
You know, Erica, as you're sharing that, I'm remembering a story about a cat that jumped on a hot stove. He jumped on a hot stove and he burned his paws and he jumped off immediately. The good news is he never jumped on a hot stove again. The bad news is he never jumped on any stove again because of that reaction. So it's important for us to analyze the experience, which we have the ability to do as human beings. We can analyze the experience and determine whether or not we should jump back on the stove. Just because the last one was hot doesn't mean the next one is, right? We can still pursue the things that we want to pursue. We shouldn't stop just because we had a bad experience.
But can you see the fear?
Exactly.
Can you see I mean, just my body of you saying, can I go back and try again? Move my body, just, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, public speaking. Oh my gosh, going into a room where people don't want me in the room. Oh my gosh, whatever the situation is for us, is can we do it again in fear?
Yeah. Now, I'm noticing on the clock, we're coming up close to the hour. So I want to give Olivia and Joel an opportunity to chime in. Anything what were your takeaways from tonight? Olivia, I know you joined a little bit or a little bit later in the hour, but what were your takeaways from what Erica and I were just sharing?
I think that everything is on us. And at the moment that I accept responsibility, it's nobody else's fault. Nobody else can come and rescue me. It's on me. And yes, I have the power to, it's the same situation, and I have the power to give the meaning to the situation. And I have the power to make magic, to make miracles. And the attitude dictates everything. Have the consistency, have the faith, but do the work, take the action. That's what makes the biggest difference. As Erica said, even if I'm afraid, which many times I am, even with fear, still do it. And believe it or not, taking action, somehow something happened, and I learned something. So it's always better to move rather than stay paralyzed for fear. And it's something that I'm committed to do at this time.
I love that, Olivia. I love that. Yes, there's fear, and we can approach fear and we can overcome fear by just doing it. And that's, sometimes it's easy for us to say. I presented a new presentation today to a group of folks. I'd never done this particular presentation before, so I chose the group carefully with the understanding that I was going to share this. And by the way, thank you for giving me the opportunity to practice. And so that removed all my fear with this new material that I was sharing. And we had a great 90 minutes together. And I walked away learning a lot of things, experiencing things. But sometimes when we're trying to do something that we haven't done before, we just need to find a way to work our way into it. And there are always opportunities for us to learn from someone else's experience how to do it so it's less fearful for us. If they can do it, I can do it. Watching somebody else's experience and then just moving it forward. Joel, how about you? Do you have something else to add?
Want to thank Olivia for being on this group. This is actually definitely one of a very good group to be in. You'll learn quite a bit. That's why I like coming back every time. So thank you for that. And I want to talk about repetition, because that's what you were talking about, Erica. We have to tell ourselves. I found this group because of Broad Proctor, and he mentions repetition, 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 and you have to do that, and eventually your mind will accept what you're telling it. And it's gonna take some while. It's not gonna take a couple of days. It is, you have to eventually, but eventually will work though. I like the fact that you said that quite a bit, and I started doing that. I got sidetracked a little bit, and but because I started uh, analyzing the situation and catching myself and able to start repeating the affirmations, which now I like the fact how you said how do I feel abundant, or how do I feel more aware, because I was having some difficulty being too busy and not being to have time for my daughter's events. So in another coaching class that I attend to from Doria, she mentions to change the information of being too busy. I'm always too busy to. Um, I am abundant in all areas of parenting. I'm a parent in all areas. I can't remember what it is right now. It's my man's blank. My mind's blanking out. Um, but I started repeating that myself to myself, and I am more. I have more time. I literally just my mind found a way of being more involved in all of my daughter's activities, so so I started. I repeat myself that. First, I was uh, just using alarms, but I wasn't looking at them. Now I'm being more focused, and I sit there for 2 minutes and repeat that affirmation. And because of that, of repetition, your mind will eventually will eat that and will do that. That's one of the big takeaways that I takeaways that I got, and I wanted to mention that repetition does help, and eventually your mind will consume that information and make it possible.
That's a great statement, Joel. Thank you for that. I appreciate that because it's very important. And Erica, with that, take us in for a landing.
Well, I just want to thank Olivia for being in the room. Joel is always, he's a coach too. By the way, Olivia is also a coach. So
Awesome.
I wanted to clarify that as well. Business owner, a coach. Joel, it's amazing wisdom that he brings to the room. Frank, thank you so much for always hosting this room and just being able to bring your history, your legacy, and what you are presently doing to help the community. It's pretty awesome. So with that, everyone, again, we are the military division for the Napoleon Hill Institute. We are here every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We want you to be part of the conversation. We want you to also be in a room where you feel safe, a room where you belong, and a room where you are going to grow and develop. So with that, good night, everyone, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Good night, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.